I'm just going live right now. So we have our YouTube live stream going.
Well, we'll keep one over.
So
where's the other one?
Well, we have them.
Okay.
Or
we have 10 of them, right?
at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is Elisa coming tonight?
Okay.
Yeah.
I got caught up in class.
Yeah.
Trying to do some. We've been doing a little bit.
Okay. Okay. Did people get to sign in too?
That's what
Okay, excellent.
Good.
Oh, let's wait one more minute. Are we live?
We are. Yeah.
We just announced that the bishop from here.
Yeah.
You know all the
So my last name, like, that's is best today?
No.
Hands are so sweaty.
Me too. Hopefully no one's listening to this about our sweaty hands. Do you see?
Oh, no. Forget.
And we can maybe let's just make an announcement that that we'll pass those around as we can. I give them some to Anna.
Okay.
But I think okay.
Yeah, just try to get that word. I need to switch up the.
Is the other one on?
It's up there.
Oh, we're just gonna pass this one back and forth.
Yeah.
All right, I'm ready. Okay.
I just needed to make sure that I can see the slides as well. All right. Can you start talking to that right?
Test.
Yes, I think it should be good.
Oh, we
It
good.
should be good. Yeah. What is this for?
That's your public comment.
Okay.
Gas attack.
Sound good. Good evening, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started. Can everybody hear me okay? Yeah, that's awesome. Welcome. I think we're having a little bit of a spring awakening today, tomorrow. I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to do it. It's been warmer today. All right. So we have a lot of slides to get through today, so apologies if we seemed a little bit rushed, but of course, raise your hand if you have any questions. Anna does have a few microphones. They're very tiny. As you can see, we have a camera here that we're running live on YouTube so that we can have this virtual accessibility and available for us to share after the fact as a recording. So if we are asking you to speak into the mic, that is why. All right, let's get into it. So we're going to do roll call and quorum. Jenny Schaefer.
Present.
Murillo Garcia is present, and Sam Schoenberg is absent. We do have quorum. We'll continue. Let's go away. Let's see. There we go. All right. As I mentioned, we do have a lot to get through today. We're really excited to be talking and diving deep into the workforce allocation study. Who here has heard us talk about workforce allocation study before? All right. Awesome. So we're excited to dive in a little bit more. We have a lot of good updates, and we're also going to ask you a little bit of a spoiler alert to take a survey. So get those phones ready, but it's going to be towards the end of the meeting. So we're really looking forward to getting into the workforce allocation study and getting your feedback specifically on what we want to prioritize and what we want those that are conducting the workforce allocation study to prioritize. We do not have any votes today, so we're going to go ahead and dive in terms of updates. So we were pleased to see that the effort to weaken the welcoming city ordinance was rejected by City Council. I did want to note that all 6 alders that touched the 19th district voted to table the resolution, meaning they did not vote on it. So we wanted to just create a transparency around the situation and wanted to let you know exactly how all alders in the city voted, as you can see here. Again, our slides are available after the fact online. So if you want to dig into any of this, we do have the Tribe Chicago's Instagram post linked here as our source. And of course, there's other articles noting this situation.
We know, and I'm sure you've all heard the news, that there are confirmed reports of ICE raids that are happening in Chicago. We are looped into a conversation with other local elected officials about what's going on, and we are. And there are amazing things that are going out and kind of keeping an eye on things and keeping people abreast of what's going on and bearing witness to the things that are happening to members of our community. If you're interested in learning more about some of those issues, please feel free to come and talk to me, and I can help connect you. Though being a rapid response team member is obviously a big commitment, people drop what they're doing at that moment to go ahead and help those in need. However, we also are giving you guys easy, quicker ways to help some of the migrants who are here. There are tons of Know Your Rights workshops that are happening right now, and we have a bunch of Know Your Rights paperwork that you're welcome to take with you as you see somebody. Feel free to give to them so that they just have an idea of what they can and what they're entitled to if they do have to interact with an ICE officer.
And I did want to just reiterate that state law prohibits any law enforcement from interacting with ICE agents. So CPD itself, and I've had conversations with CPD Command Staff 19, corroborating this, what we've heard and what we've read. They are not to interact or engage with federal agents in terms of anything related to ICE and their engagements related to immigration enforcement.
And actually, one other thing about that, the Welcoming City Act that they were trying to weaken a little bit, the CPD actually spoke out against that as well. And one more thing on similar topic. At our December meeting, we were hoping to make these bags for our unhoused neighbors. City worked slowly, and the stuff to fill the kits came late, so I had my kids help me fill 50 bags of different items like hand warmers, feet warmers, gloves. Our mental health crisis card is in there. Different things that we've heard from neighbors that they are looking for who are staying on the streets. The bags are all in the back corner. Please help yourself to take a couple. I keep them in my car and pass them out if they see people in need. And they're always really excited and gratefully received. Another important update that we want to tell you guys about. So the mayor's office has been engaging in a round of community meetings around two things. One is community policing, and the other thing that they're asking about is alternate response. I know especially alternate response is something that we talk about quite a bit in our district council meetings, and community policing is also a very important topic to us, and I think we are going to be even talking about it more and more as the year progresses. They will be having, they had a bunch of meetings already mostly on the south and west sides. When we saw that schedule come out, we were upset that there was nothing yet on the north side. Through advocacy from district councils and some community members, we were able to get 2 north side sessions added. I think one, no, they both are still to come. And then there's also 2 Zoom sessions that were added. The Zoom sessions are the ones that have already passed, but they're one of, especially highlight the one on February 4th is having an Uptown Library. It's a chance just to give your opinion on when you think alternate response would be appropriate, and when you think you'd like to see a police officer respond to a 911 call. Additionally, talking about like what kind of things are important to you for community policing. So really encourage people to get out there on February 4th and try and attend that meeting and share your feedback. We also on our emails are sending out a survey that you can just take and fill out with the city policy. So that's an alternate way to give that feedback.
Use this one, guys.
Care update. We have an exciting care update. This feels like a long time ago, but so the care update is there have been 4 teams that were operating around the Chicagoland area. It has now expanded to a total of 17. We are lucky to still have the one in the 19th district. It operates in those blue areas, which are the 1st district, the 4th district, the 6th district. 7 and 8 share a care team. The 12th district, and then, like I said, the 19th district. Another thing that they added, because the mayor's office realizes that this is something that many Chicagoans want to see, they have a citywide team that actually will go to calls across the city. That one is not accessed through 911 like the other care teams. I know we talk about care team a lot. Does everyone here familiar with care team? It's a mental health crisis responder alongside an EMT, a non-police response for mental health crises that are nonviolent. Most of the time, the care van is set through 911, but like I said, the citywide team is, you have to have that special email address, so we want people to know about it, but we are lucky in the 19th, but we can just call 911 to get a care van to come between the hours of 10:30 and 4 p.m. Monday through Friday, which is very limited. Something that we're also thinking about in the coming years is that the care funding actually runs out at the end of this year. So we're going to be advocating and sharing with you guys ways to advocate to make sure that that the city finds ways to fund the care team moving forward, and that we continue to expand across the city.
Sure. So we wanted to make everyone aware about the CPD Town Hall, the 19th District Strategic Plan. So every year, if you are familiar, CPD hosts community conversations in October. There's 2 sessions. We were a little bit disappointed this year that they were not advertised very well. I think we had a combined, we had a combined attendance of about 25 folks attend across the 2. So it was a low attendance. What comes out of that is a strategic plan that the CPD works towards. We were supposed to get quarterly updates on these strategic plans, and the 2025 plan was released. It's linked here at the bottom, and you can see that the ultimate priorities that are coming out of this plan are to address robberies, burglaries, and shootings. So some of the sample of response strategies listed, as you can see here on the right side. Big one that we want to highlight are increased foot patrols and business walks, right? Another one that is beat integrity, meaning that the same officers are going to serve the same areas geographically over and over, so we can get consistent patrol. So these are things that you've heard us talk about before. These are priorities within the strategic plan, and we look forward to CPD actually making these happen, and we're looking forward to receiving regular updates as we've been promised. So keep an eye out on this. We'll touch base on what we hear and how we make progress towards this.
And just one more thing about some of those strategies that CPD has talked about working towards. What we have a limited number of CPD officers. We hear from our commander all the time that we don't have enough officers to fill the beat cars for all the 15 beats that are in the 19th district, all the 3 shifts that occur. And so what we consistently and continuously try and do is think about how to use the officers we have within the police department more efficiently and effectively, which is why the workforce allocation study that we're going to be talking about is such an important piece of that story. So, it's great to have these goals of trying to increase these positions, but thinking critically about how we're actually going to do that is something that we want to bring to the community and to the 19th district. Really quickly, as we kind of share some of the community engagements and key meetings we've had, as always, very, very busy, having lots of good conversations with many different people across the community. And then last thing we like to do in this part is have if anyone from any community group is present and wants to share about anything that's happening in their community group or something that you think that community would like to know about, we'd love to hear it. We know that a connected community is a really important part of building safe communities. So we are really grateful for the participation and all the hard work that our community groups have. So is there anyone here that is something they want to share about what's happening in the community? Oh wait, hold on a second. We're trying to make sure that we get you also captured on
The live stream.
the live stream.
This is my I can't believe it. What does this do?
Just talking to it so that the live stream can hear you.
Talk about tech. No, my name is Mike Pavlon, and I represent the Heart of Lincoln Square, which is the Lincoln Square Community Association. And I've been traveling from the 17th Council and the 19th here and the 20th Police Council. And they are doing a marvelous job here. But my job is to communicate how to bring crime down and bring it back to the community association that I represent. And so we're on track, but it's slow. And my big bitch, if I can say that, is that we have too much of a bureaucracy in the Chicago Police Department. And that comes in many different ways. So end of story, and I'm sure that the 19th, what do you call you guys? Representatives? No.
District councilors.
Yeah, right. You're elected.
Yes. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Do want to take this opportunity to recognize some other district councilors in the room today. We have our 18th district, which is right to the south of us. We have Bob Johnson, Brad Kessler, and Karen Kane in the back. So thank you so much for coming out. Welcome to our meeting. And yeah, we're excited to host you guys. So thank you.
Excellent. Any other community updates? Anything that are going on in the community that you want to share? Okay, cool.
All right, let's keep going. Okay, every month we update the community in terms of our community partnership plan and the progress that we're making towards it. So this is the first month where we've had no movement on this right-hand side that you see, Delta. The reason is because we've been very, very busy working on this 911 alternative response model and the workforce allocation study. As you remember, we have a total of 50 goals, and as of December and of this month, we have started, completed, or some are ongoing for to a count of 39. So we're about 36% complete specifically, but we've started 78% of those. So we're very proud of the progress we've made. Again, we're going to update you every week, every month. And we wanted to hit on specifically some of the goals that we've been working towards. As you know, and Jenny mentioned, we're very invested in this alternative response model and the workforce allocation study. You can see here we have 5 goals specifically tailored and geared towards completing the alternative response model. And we're really excited and proud to say that we've made a really good amount of progress on that front. You can remember from November, we had a 911 calls analysis report that we wanted to release, where we showed that 10% of 911 calls in the 19th district were for parking violations. We think that police should not be responding to 911 calls related to parking violations. So we've been working with Alderman Matt Martin here in the 47th to put forth a resolution for a subject matter hearing in City Council, where Sam, Jenny, and I and other district council members can go up in front of City Council and explain that information specifically and make a case that police officers should not be responding to parking violations. We're really proud of the reception that we've had so far. We appreciate and are grateful for the support from Alderman Matt Martin and his staff. We're going to keep the community apprised as to when that happens, but we're hoping that it happens in the next few weeks or so.
All right. We are going to jump now into the allocation study. Before we do that, actually, though, we have been a district council for a little bit under 2 years. District councils, as a elected body, have been around for under 2 years altogether. So I think we always use the analogy that we're building the plane and flying it at the same time. And I think as we've been doing this, we're starting to see how district councils can really impact and be a really innovative way for Chicagoans to have a voice of what public safety and policing looks like. And I think it's coming to life more and more. So just want to remind you of our vision, and I think this is pretty consistent. We see district councils as being the voice for community when it comes to different things that are happening in public safety. We want to be able to be the liaison between government officials like the mayor, the alder people, city agencies. We want to be able to be your liaison to them, to the commission, which is another important piece of the district, the CCPSA puzzle, as well as the police officers. And so, as I was saying, this is a brand new form, and we are really trying to understand how to make it best work and how to make sure it becomes a powerful force for participatory democracy that benefits all Chicagoans and fosters collaboration between community members, government officials, and the police department. To realize this potential, I think we need to help stakeholders understand how to fully integrate district councils into the fabric of city government. So in other words, now we're at the point where I think we are starting to understand how district councils can benefit the city. Now we need to kind of convince the city and show that we are an important piece of this city democracy as well. So how do we do that? Like I said, this is a new body. We need to earn trust. We need to show all the stakeholders what we can do and how we can do it. And we need to do that by building collaborative relationships so that we can bring this vision of what a participatory democracy could really look like. And I think we do it one project at a time. I was kind of using the analogy in my head, like we lay down a brick, and we lay down each brick, and eventually the bricks will all come together to form a path to where we want to go. So with this, does that vision make sense to people, kind of explaining where we are and what we're hoping to do as a district council?
No.
Okay, so that's fine. So now that you get the vision, let's get to work on it. We're gonna start with the workforce allocation study. So how do district council members, how can we engage in the workforce allocation study? How can we really make sure that community voice is part of what is included and what is thought about, and what the stakeholders who are in charge of the workforce allocation study, what they hear and how to mold what they're doing. So just to kind of demonstrate some of the challenges we've had and why this is so important, we've reached out multiple times to many different groups that are all listed here to try and get a speaker to come tonight to share with the community about the workforce allocation study. Despite all of this, we do not have a speaker tonight. You and me and Aurelio. We've done these meetings for 2 years, and we have never had a difficulty like this to try and get a speaker. So, I think this really demonstrates that the city doesn't quite understand how district councils could and should be used to help impact what's going on in the study, and we want to show them.
And Rick, go ahead. Question. Yeah, please.
Are there other cities? How unique is district councilors to the police forces?
Do you want to ask that question again? Sorry.
How unique are district councils to a police force? Are there other cities that have done this earlier than you that you can learn from? It seems very unique. I don't know whether it's been successful in other cities.
Great question. No, we are the first city. So not only are we going to build it for Chicago, we're having to build it for the nation. We are the first city to have elected officials to represent the community in these types of issues, which is why this ordinance is so exciting and so cool. And why we all together are really at the ground floor of what this can be. Great question. Thank you for bringing that point up.
And I did want to shout out a couple of our community members, specifically Mike and Claire, for speaking up at other public meetings and saying that we should be utilizing district councils as a way to disseminate information and educate folks, but also get community feedback. This is exactly what we had envisioned. So we appreciate that shout out as a district council as a whole. And I would assume that our district councilors in the 18th also would agree with that. one of the things that we show here are a few different nonprofits, right, or different organizations that are stakeholders in this effort in getting the workforce allocation study completed. We haven't been successful in engaging with them the way that we think we should, right? We talk about these community input sessions that are related to community policing and alternative response. On that list before was workforce allocation study. And when we reached out, they said, oh no, that was a mistake. And we said, okay, who's putting this together? So even the city itself is having trouble making sense of all these initiatives that are going on. And we have been pushing this since November 2023, right? So we feel like we are very well versed in this subject. We should be looked to disseminate this information and, more importantly, get your feedback and your priorities. So it's been a frustrating process, and I do want to shout out specifically Jenny, because I know she's been sending emails, getting on the phone, trying to get someone to come out and help us, help you, help our community, and it just hasn't been as streamlined as it should be.
Oh, your question.
Hi. Question is, so if people don't come to us from the government, what can we do to come to them and to raise this issue? Because it seems that somehow somebody needs to force the issue and get the engagement.
Yeah, great question. We kind of saw the writing on the wall, we saw that early and really towards the end of last year to ask for this meeting. And we kind of saw the writing on the wall. So we've been doing a lot of advocacy work on your behalf, and we're hoping that if we need to call in community, we will certainly put out on our newsletter ways that you can engage. We are making progress. This is what the next slide is, and I'm excited to share. So after seeing that it was going to be a hard time engaging with the workforce allocation study team, and I think, again, I don't think that it's any one entity's fault. I think this is a new thing. People have never understood or seen how we can be used. So that's why it's going back to earning a spot at the table. I also think CPD has never had to answer to community before. They are very used to kind of being insular and keeping amongst themselves and not having to answer community concerns. So I think that, we're really having to show how we can do this in a way that's collaborative and that's not adversarial with them. And I think that that's really despite the narrative that is out there in media, there are ways to engage around public safety and policing that don't have to be so adversarial and so up against two sides up against one another.
And as we said before, we have a great relationship with Commander Gisani and the command staff here in the 19th. Strong support for a lot of the initiatives that we have been putting forth, including the workforce allocation study and especially the 911 parking analysis, that calls for service parking violations analysis that we've been doing. So it's a matter, I think that's a great point that Jenny makes. It's a matter of synchronizing all of these different entities within the city to understand the path that we're trying to take, and the priority should be the path that we as a community want to take, and that's what we're trying to do.
So I saw the writing on the wall. I reached out to the commissioner President Anthony Driver, and asked him if he would advocate for district council members to have a place in the community engagement aspect of the workforce allocation study. And he has agreed to help us do that and work on our behalf. I kind of outline a process on how I think district councils can be engaged in that, which we're going to share on the next slide in 1 minute. But also excitingly, today I got an email commitment from the mayor's office, because that was another city, that was someone else I've been trying to talk to and ask how they are going to do that we will be part of the engagement process. She said that she would be working with President Driver to work on that process. And I asked if we could be part of that conversation as well. So the next piece, this is our suggested proposal of how we think district councils could engage in the workforce allocation study. So it's kind of, I see it almost as like a circle, right? First, district councils are going to share information and engage the community. I think in order for community to give thoughtful feedback, they have to have the information and they have to understand exactly what's being studied. So just asking, just asking for feedback without giving you the information about what's happening, I don't think they're not going to get the impactful information that they're looking for. So I think making sure that this key stakeholders from the workforce allocation study are providing district councils with educational resources to share out the study details and give context is going to be important. It's going to be the first step of the process. Then I think the district councils should work to develop engagement questions that we across the city can gather the same meaningful feedback from our community. Think about what are the things that we want to hear, what are the we work with the teams from the workforce allocation study to hear what kind of things they want to hear from the community and come up with those questions together about what that looks like. Then of course the next part of that loop will be to gather the feedback, share through our monthly meetings, through our newsletters, through our websites, any other channels that district councils use. I know we all have different ways of engaging our community and work to get that feedback from the community. Then what I see happening, once we get that feedback, then it's our jobs to relay that information to the stakeholders in the workforce allocation study. So we need to have some type of system where we can share feedback with the appropriate contact. As well as, in addition, as well as making sure that we have a spot, because we know community has questions. They're going to want to hear answers to questions that they have that we present that we might not have the answers to. So make sure that we have a process where we can submit community questions and those questions can be answered by the appropriate stakeholder within the workforce allocation study. And then I think a third important piece of that is making sure that there's a designated point person for DCs to contact within the study so that we can meet with them as necessary so that we can make sure that we really are fully embedded within the workforce allocation study process and that your voice is really heard and meaningfully integrated into the outcomes.
So we see this as a really great first example, almost a pilot of how the city should enable the district counselors. You know, we have a lot of information, a lot of steps up here. I wanted to take a moment and just say, does anybody have any suggestions? Does this make sense? Any questions as to what this process looks like? So engaging the community, enrolling ourselves as district council within city initiatives so that we can make sure that you as a community member are represented in any decision making for things like the workforce allocation study.
Be there. But this doesn't work.
It does. It's for our camera. It's for our camera. It's for the people online.
Oh, geez. I don't have to be online.
We have 12 people online.
Oh, people who are zooming.
Yes. No worries.
I haven't zoomed in a long time. Yeah, I'm sorry. So, what was I saying? So tomorrow at Malcolm X College, Superintendent Snelling is going to be there, and the head of COPA, and then one other bigwig who, what's the other, would it be Driver or no, somebody like that, yeah. So you're going to have some goals set, and the allocation issue is going to set goals. They're going to come out for the Chicago Police Department. What will those goals be? Now, that's what I read when I did my research on it, and I intend to be there. I think it's 6 p.m. at Malcolm X College, and nothing's going to happen to you because there's going to be 25 cops there surrounding the place, believe me. So, you know, do it. You know, if you really believe in it and you want some extra inside ideas and goals right in front of your own eyes for the Chicago Police Department, then go to it. I'm going to be there. And if you want to ride, hop on my ride. I'll pay for the gas.
Thanks, Mike. And I think that's a great point, right? You know, sometimes you have to go across city to give your input. This is why the district councils are hyper local, so you can come to Salter Library because it's close and it's convenient. I know we had another question over here.
Hi, yes, it's not a question, it's more of a comment. It's very helpful to be in the same room with people and sharing the same reality, because I also think that it's nice that you share information from key stakeholders and then we roll it back up to them. But at the same time, there needs to be this space where we all can share our individual experiences with each other and come to like a more full picture of what's going on around us before we provide feedback, because I think individual feedback is valid, but also community can inform that feedback better and make better solution proposals.
That's a great point. I love that because, to your point, individual experiences might not reflect exactly what the community's experienced, but also you're part of the community, so we should be informing one another. So as part of this contextual information, as we gather it, it would be great to have maybe community like listening sessions. And I know that we set aside 2 specific meetings for us. They're, instead of Wednesday nights like this, we make them Saturdays. Are more accessible. They're during the day, and we try to make those more of a community conversation. So really like that idea of anytime we do have to get more important feedback, put it into that context as well.
Yeah, I think that's great feedback. Thank you.
One more question.
I'm Mark Willage.
Thank you.
I hope y'all can hear me and not blasting anybody out. My name is Mark Willage, and I'm here at the district council, and I'm looking at 2 arrows. One goes straight to the commissioners, and the other kind of is at risk of becoming lost in the interstices of bureaucracy. Is the other arrow. When are the commissioners due to be formulated? When is that to start? Or are they already working?
The commissioners are permanent. They were voted in. Sam is not here. He's on the nominating committee who put forth the process to nominate and get those folks appointed. I believe they've been, Charlie, I'm going to call you out. They've been appointed for 6-ish months, 4 months, 4 to 6 months.
Okay.
4? So they've been in a few months is where we're going to go. The commissioners, the permanent commissioners. 6 months, yes.
Okay, so us as the here at the meeting today, we would, if we had something else in addition, it's a matter of convincing you that indeed limited resources are for that. And also, can the public go strictly to the commissioners from the district council to add things or suggest things that we think aren't on the agenda, the revolving agenda, but really should be?
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's one of the ways that we see the district council is really impacting what the commission does, right? Having ongoing conversations. I know that our team, CCPSA staff, does a really good job and works really hard to provide updates to the commissioners on our priorities and our objectives, and that the commissioners take those, and help form their next steps. And so specifically for this initiative that we have up here on the screen, that's exactly the reason that we're getting President Driver involved, the president of the commissioners, so that we can have a very strong voice to advocate for what we're trying to do.
And like Mike had said, the meeting is also a great time to give your community input directly to the commission. There's also an email address they check. It's communitycommission@cityofchicago.org. Communitycommission@cityofchicago.org. It's a great way to reach out to them as well.
All right, thank you for that. All right, so we're going to dive deep into the heart of the workforce allocation study. At any point, if you have a question, raise your hand. We do want to make this as interactive as possible. Again, we don't like to talk at folks for an hour and a half. So please let me know if there's any clarifying questions, because if you have a question, that means that somebody probably else has a question as well. All right, so a CPD workforce allocation, what is it? This is the 19th district's definition. We created this in November of 2023. We still think it is very valid. We see it as an in-depth data-driven analysis of Chicago Police Department's complete workforce, including both sworn officers and non-sworn positions. So think of civilians that work within the department. We believe that this analysis is going to examine a whole array of factors, including where and when sworn officers are deployed, specifically what area, what district, which mission teams, and what beat specifically. What types of calls for service officers are addressing, like we've mentioned before, should they be addressing parking violations. How much time officers spend answering calls for service. So if they do go out to address a parking violation, is that 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, more? The extent of a responsibility and task currently expected of them. And then, like, as I mentioned, everything all these bullet points also apply to the civilians working for the department. So we want to understand what they're doing specifically for CPD. So the workforce allocation study, in our perspective, is meant to provide answers to us as a community as to how to make policing more effective. This is something that we know is going to be completed within the next year, so the near term, which is something that we're really excited about. To some of the points made in this room, bureaucracy does seem to get in the way and elongate timelines, but we're hoping that within the next year we will get some real answers. It's going to be an ongoing and dynamic capability that's going to provide us with the data that the situations that live within the department. And we feel strongly, and we know that this has been promised, that the results will be made public. There's actually been a couple of other workforce allocation studies done, and I think within the last 10 years that were not released to the public. And we're really excited for this first one to actually be publicly available. So why do we need a CPD workforce allocation study? We showed this before, and I went back and looked at the numbers. So in terms of the level of sworn officers in the city, we've heard consistently that the number of officers are declining. We had a lot of folks retire. We had a lot of folks leave the force. You can see in September of 2017, we had just over 12,250 officers available to CPD. As of December of 2024, that's dropped about 650-ish officers to 11,626. So we've lost about 90 officers per year. As Inspector General Deborah Wexberg has mentioned before, we're not going to hire our way out of this, meaning we're not going to be able to hire enough police officers to ultimately get the appropriate amount of officers out on the beats. And what we instead have been advocating for is having our officers properly allocated, right? So we're going to have to do more with what we have, and that's why we call for civilization of the CPD department to be increased. So specifically, of the 5 major U.S. cities in the nation, we can see that the percent of civilians working within the department, the police department specifically, is extremely low in Chicago compared to other major cities in the United States. We are at 5%, and you can see New York is at 30%. That is way too low. So when we think of our officers addressing parking violations or dogs off leash or actually trying to get to a serious crime, we need to think about, are there officers right now doing administrative tasks or within the department that aren't out on the streets, on the beat, that could be, to be able to help address some of those more serious and violent crimes? Sure.
Game of football. Sorry. We're brave.
Hold on to it.
In the game of football, there was once not a forward pass. I mean, you could have stayed around for 2, 3, 5, 10 years and say, well, we got to research it. This is like not going ahead with the forward pass. New York, LA, Vegas, and Houston are all ahead of us. Where the hell is Chicago Police Department pride? Now, this came up at the commissioners meeting that I went to, and they would not answer the question, even though Superintendent Snelling was there, and he says, we are starting on it, but none of the commissioners would say, well, how many, when you're going to, what's your goal for it for 25? And it just went dead then. But this is extremely important. It's what got me excited 14, 17 months ago.
And that's exactly why we need to advocate and make sure that this workforce allocation study gets done, because my hypothesis is Superintendent Snelling didn't answer that question because I don't know if we have accurate data to actually be able to answer that question.
And I also think that's why we're doing the analysis of the 911 calls, and what we're hoping comes out of that is, figuring out where we can add more civilians, or even just take it off CPD and move it out to an alternate department altogether, like we are hoping to accomplish with the parking.
More question? No worries.
So my question's the following. So Chicago has a very small number of non-police members, inside the police department. One of my concerns, though, is that if we just look at the ratio of non, police to actual police officers, that's, I mean, that ratio could mean anything. I would hope that in the workforce allocation study, the kinds of questions that need to be asked for those people is, what kind of administrative support do the police actually need, and what are they actually getting? I've been in the bureaucracy and I know how this works. So I think unless very specific questions are asked about this, we may find a whole lot more people in those roles, but nothing may change or things could get worse.
Ivan, that's a great question, and I want you to remember that question. And when we come forth our survey, put that into the survey, because that's an excellent question. One more question over here.
Actually, two-parter. One is question number one is the study ongoing right now, or are we still trying to get it to get started? And the second question, what are the, like, you're using the OIG data, and I'm curious, have you been able to engage with the OIG to get a look at like how the police department is responding to the police council, like to help you with additional leverage, if that makes sense?
Great questions. The first one is this workforce allocation has it been commissioned? It's been commissioned. It's an ongoing. We have a slide coming up tell you exactly where we are in the process. So stay tuned for that. To your question about working with the OIG, collaborating with the police department, we're trying. We're very much trying. I know, I've talked about this 911 analysis a lot. That was something that we reached out to the OIG, understand if we're using the right data sources. To be quite blunt, we haven't been received as seriously as we hoped. And that's another reason that we're talking about this path forward, right? That we need to be embedded within the fabric of our city government. Because I would hope that if district councilors from the 18th district reach out with a question about their district or any data, they get the answers that they need. I've had to go through the general process of creating a FOIA request, which is the Freedom of Information Act, right? And we've waited 4 to 6 months to get responses. We can't act fast enough if that's what we're leaning on. So I hope that we're going to start to build this path that Jenny mentioned, so that we can start collaborating not only with OIG but with the police department, as you mentioned. Oh, one more question.
Yes, go back to that other slide, please. Sure. I was just going to mention that I don't think we have to reinvent the wheel. I am sure if you went to the New York Police Department, they would have a spokesman who would be loving to say with their wheel, with their incorporating 30% non-officers means.
Yep. And
so you don't have to reinvent the wheel, folks. You can go to those places, and then somebody will come out and beat their chest and say, look, folks, it's not really that hard. We now have 30%. So that's what I just wanted to mention.
That's a great question, Mark. And, well, another slide that we have up here, but the group that's conducting this study has done it in other cities. So that's a great way for us to say, hey, what are these cities, what have they done? Has it worked? And to Ivan's question, let's ask it again and see, okay, well, we know it worked over there. It's going to work here. So in terms of, we talked about this slide in November, and what we see is these 5 things are critical to optimizing the use of our police. So when we talk about the workforce allocations, we're mainly talking about proper officer allocation, and as we were just talking about, increased civilianization rate of the department. So we think that doing so is going to help CPD focus more on serious crime and building trust with the community. Just a couple of key takeaways as to why we think CPD is needed. I'm not going to get to the details of all of these. Again, this is available online after the fact. But we have a large department in the police department, and it seems to be lacking. It's one of the biggest per capita in the nation, if not the biggest. I think that's still correct. And we're not getting what we need from it. They're not available when we need them. Response times are abysmal, especially in under-resourced parts of the city. We've talked ad nauseum about how delayed we are with the progress being made towards consent decree. The workforce allocation study is a core component of consent decree. We think it's also unfair to officers that they're being allocated in the way they are. We talk about how their time off is constantly canceled, and then they're working hours upon hours, back to back to back. They need a break as well. To be effective police officers engaging with the community, they need their proper mental wellness as well. It's lacking transparency, as we talked about before. The 2 workforce allocation studies that were conducted before were not released to the public. This one will be. And then we also saw that it's been demanded by other city leaders. So we are happy to jump on that call for action as well.
So like we mentioned, that's kind of the overview. That was a kind of a review for people who have been to our meetings before. We want to make sure people are staying up to date on what's happening currently with the workforce allocation study. Like I mentioned, we tried to get a speaker and we did not, and we saw the writing on the wall. So I attended the consent. So every month or so, the independent monitoring team with let me rewind. The independent monitoring team is in charge of keeping track of Chicago's progress on the consent decree. They have monthly hearings with the judge to kind of give updates and provide the city and the public. They're open to everyone with what's going on and what's new in with the consent decree. This month they happen to be presenting on the workforce allocation study, so I attended virtually and I took screenshots of all of the screen of all of their slides. So I'm going to present that information to you guys now, so you know what's going on. Try and do it in a quick manner. Okay, so as we announced several meetings ago, Matrix Consulting Group is the group that was chosen to be the third party to run the workforce allocation study. They are based out of Chicago. Not Chicago. They're based out of California. They've had over 2 decades of experience. They've conducted over 400 different studies in 45 different states for numerous large metropolitan police districts in U.S. and in Canada. And they gave a proposed timeline of 1 year from start to finish. That is something I am skeptical of, but we will hold them to their feet to the fire, and hope to see that be completed within that time. It would be really important also as we're thinking about budget season, right? Like making sure that we do have these numbers and we can make sure that we are thinking critically about how we're going to provide funding in different areas. Just quickly to touch on, just to kind of show what Matrix has done, they've done workforce allocation study with San Francisco, the police department, of the entire department. They created methodologies to analyze the staffing needs of every assignment in the department. And they've developed interactive resource allocation models to fully replicate the study's analysis in the future. So that's something that they're also going to be doing for Chicago, which I think is a really important piece. That way, it's going to be a model that we're going to be able to continue to go back and look at and be able to update where our resources, what the allocation should look like, so that we're not 5 years later kind of being like, okay, now we're in a different space. What should we do now? This will be an iterative model that they'll give us. They've also done something for the law and the department, similar to the study. Next, what does this workforce allocation aim to achieve? It's going to, one, importantly, like we mentioned, help us get in compliance with many of the different requirements under the consent decree. It's so important actually that the independent monitoring team actually called out the fact that we have finally made progress on this. Because as you know, if you've been following this, it's been very, very slow to get off the ground, but now that we are finally contract signed, officially in phase 1 of the study, they called out that this is so important to actually getting into compliance with lots of the things that we have not yet met yet. One of the things that they are really looking to do is to achieve unity of command and span of control. What that means is that they're going to have the same one sergeant who's going to be in charge of the same 10 officers. And maintaining that chain of command is really important. It doesn't happen right now. Right now, officers can often have different sergeants on each watch. So being able to have that work relationship with a boss, if your boss is always changing, it's really hard to know what to expect, what they want from you. It's also hard for them to see if you're having a hard time or if you're needing help, how they can help it stand and help you. So achieving this unity of command and span of control, I think, is a really important piece of the workforce allocation study. It's going to take into account demand factors such as population, crime rate, calls for service, consistent response times across districts, and other officer time on and off the radio. Another important thing is making sure that officers are working the same geographical location. So again, this doesn't happen. You could be a 19th district officer, but you might be placed in different beats or in different, you might be detailed in different details throughout the course of your time. It's important that the officers know their community, the people in the community know who is patrolling them. They can see what's normal, what's normal, what's not normal. If there's a person that's continuing to need help, they'll be able to deliver help in a different way than somebody who's just coming across that person for the first time. And really trying to build relationships with community. Which something else that they're going to talk about is the community policing strategy. I know I've heard the superintendent say that all police officers should be community police officers. That is not the case right now. They're going to do an examination of the total resources within the department, and they're also going to identify stabilization and roles to aid in efficiency. So they've laid out a 5-step phase process. So the first phase we're in now is the foundation phase. They're doing all the planning, the initiation, they're doing the interviews and engaging the stakeholders. The next phase is that they're going to enter is doing a current state assessment, kind of getting a profile of where we are within the district, within the city and each district. The third phase is breaking up actually into 2 different analyses. First, they're going to analyze the patrol staffing, and then the second piece of it is the non-patrol staffing. And actually, interestingly, we didn't include this graphic, but we should. The number of officers, according to the Inspector General's website, that are actually assigned to patrol, which I know when I was looking at the data, I was shocked. It's about 20% of our officers are assigned to patrol to beats, where the other 80% are assigned to alternate types of roles. That was shocking to me to find out, and I'm wondering what those other 80% are doing and how we can make sure that we get more officers patrolling and manning the beats. Phase 4, they're going to actually develop the staffing model, and then phase 5 is implementation, and we'll get the final report. We can skip these. These are kind of.
Yeah, just know that these are available online, but it's essentially exactly what Jenny just walked through.
So wanted to also provide, this is, each red star is the community engagement opportunity. So they have committed to having community engagement opportunities. And what we were talking about before is we want to make sure that district councils are part of that community engagement schedule, or part of that community engagement process, and that we are looped into these different stars, these different dates that are indicated for community engagement checkpoints. And I'm gonna skip over this, but I recommend taking a look at this later. But these are just kind of what they are proposing each of the different engagements sessions will be about. And so, and it just kind of, it makes sense to go with what each phase of the study. Quickly go. Sorry. So the next slide is just a copy of everyone who's on the steering committee who will be guiding this process, just highlighting that it's both CPD and people from the city, and Anthony Driver, the CCPSA president, sits on that committee. And so the current status is, like I said, we're in phase 1. They're continuing to meet with Matrix on a regular basis to discuss the data request, existing data sources, and review strategies to alleviate potential roadblocks. I think they're just really still trying to plan how it's all going to happen. They had, I don't know if they had the formal launch meeting yet, but they were supposed to have it sometime this month.
2 days.
2 days, hopefully it gets done. They are The Matrix Consulting Group is just reaching out to the bureaus within the police department to schedule the interviews. They have agreed to regular updates that will be provided to the independent monitoring team and the Office of the Attorney General. And then they're also going to be doing periodic status updates that will be provided via the public court hearing. There's a link to that schedule so that you know what it is.
All right, so now it's when we turn to you guys. Before we do that, any burning questions? All right. Oh, one here.
It's not a burning question. It's just a curiosity. Does the police cover public transit, including CTA, or is that some other security force?
I believe, Elise, do you know if you can address that? The CTA, CPD versus, or John, you have an answer to that? Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. The police department is in charge of securing the trains on the CTA. The CTA also has a private force, and in fact, this month they're supposed to be increasing the number of dog teams that they're going to be paying for to go through the trains and work the stations. But it's primarily the responsibility of the CPD.
Got it. Thank you. Okay, so what questions do we want CPD workforce allocations to study a study to answer? So in November 2023, we set out 4 different topics and we put out questions that we think are important, and we are using these as primers for you to start getting, thinking about what kind of questions you want this study to answer. So we have, like I said, a survey coming up, but just to cover the types of questions that we think could be important based off of what we've heard from you and based off our conversations with, public safety stakeholders. So number 1, getting the right number of officers. As I said, we're not going to hire our way out of this. So what do we do to get the most out of what we have today? Do we have enough officers patrolling the beats? I know in the 19th district, we have 15 beats. We don't have enough officers to put 2 officers in a car per beat, right? Why is that the case? How much time do officers spend responding to calls or service? Are officers placed when and where crime can happen? How does CPD make assignments now, and how can CPD use available data to deploy officers more efficiently? The second topic that we talked about is consistency of officers, and Jenny's talked about this a little bit. How can we achieve unity of command and span of control? How can we achieve consistency of patrol within a beat? What are breakdowns in the system that prevent us from achieving this goal? The right responsibilities. Do we have jobs within the department that could be better filled by non-sworn officers rather than sworn officers? Do we have jobs within the department that could be better filled by other Chicago departments? Parking violations. How can CPD allocate its workforce to better contribute to our officer wellness? And then the last topic that we talked about was more effective policing. How can CPD's workforce be allocated to improve clearance rates, both for the most serious crimes and across the board? How can CPD improve response times to 911 calls? And then do we have inefficiencies that are making it more difficult for officers to complete their assignments? Just doing a time check, but we do want to have enough time for everybody to fill out the survey. So I will like everybody to take out their phone. Again, we'll have this posted online. We can send the link out. But I would really love it for you to take the next 5 minutes to answer this 3-question survey. So this is a QR code. If you scan it, it should take you to a Google form where you do not have to sign in, and it should be just 3 questions. So I'll give you guys some time. Sure.
When they did the study in San Francisco and these other 400 studies, did they address these questions?
These specific ones so that's a great question. I don't know the answer to that question. That's another thing that I think it's a valid question to ask, right? So these other studies, what were their objectives? What were the community conversations like? And ultimately, how have they delivered against those questions specifically? That's a great question, and we haven't really investigated. Unless Jenny, you have something else?
No, I don't know. But I think that's part of the process that we're envisioning is hearing community questions and be able to write them down and get those answers from Matrix or the right stakeholder.
And again, if you can't get your QR code to work, we are going to send this out virtually, so you will have another opportunity to fill this out. Question?
Yeah. Did you guys find out when Matrix or others involved, maybe that steering committee, will they be hosting official community engagement feedback sessions specifically for the workforce allocation study?
Yeah, so I'm gonna go, does everybody have the QR code? So we believe that these red stars are indicative of when these community feedback sessions are going to happen specifically for the workforce allocation study. So we are looking forward to getting these dates and being able to attend. The ongoing community input sessions are not focused on the workforce allocation study. Those are focused on community policing and alternative response. So these are going to be different and additive to those that we know are going now. And these are going to be specifically for workforce allocation. Did I answer your question? Yeah.
Well,
Sorry, I said it already.
you missed out on that. I'm happy to fill you in on that. Go to watch the earlier part of the meeting, but I'm happy to kind of talk through all this with you.
All right. How's everybody doing on the study? The survey. Well, there's a free Wi-Fi, CPL Wi-Fi, if you can't get onto the internet. Question in the back?
Can we go back to the previous slide?
Which one specifically?
The one where it shows the time that.
The timeline?
No. Here, that one.
Yeah.
If you notice there on the patrol staffing and redistricting on the number 3.
Yep.
There's no star for public input. The non-patrol has a star, but if you want to have an input and it's into the study, they're not allowing you to do it. So I would say we should try to get something to move on that.
Yeah, the way I understood it, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that they're going to conduct the patrol staffing and redistricting portion, then the non-patrol, and then have a community conversation that's going to be focused on both. So it's essentially completing it in sequential manner and then hosting a community session. So it will encompass both of those topics.
That's how I interpret it as well. Each phase is going to have a community engagement session at the end of it.
Okay.
But we can clarify.
All right. So before we go into wrap up, I'm just curious, as you filled out the survey, anybody want to volunteer the questions that they want to see answered or the priorities they want to see prioritized? More time is needed. No, please take your time again, and we'll send this out in our newsletter. And so, we're looking forward to getting this feedback. And as we mentioned, we want to use this as a pilot to illustrate how the district councils can take community feedback and give our feedback as community to initiatives that are so important like this one.
Hi, so this is Karen Kane, and I'm with the 18th Police District Council. And number one, I have to say I support what you're doing with the solicitation. You have a good relationship with your community. 18 has a good relationship, and I know there are others too. And I think the people in the community would be able to provide some meaningful input. And the second thing I just wanted to say is that the 3 of us from 18 district councilors are here, and we're learning from you. And so I think that that's a big compliment, and thank you very much for your leadership on this role and grabbing all of this. I know Jenny previously distributed to all the district councilors an executive summary of exactly what's happening, and that was very helpful. So we appreciate that, and I hope that sometime you can come to one of our meetings and learn something too.
I would love
Absolutely.
to.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Just south. Yeah, so we go from the river.
Just you want to, let me take a look. Just make sure I don't have anything. Does anybody else have any issues submitting? No. Yeah,
Maybe it went in now.
Let's see.
It keeps on.
It might be the connection that's in here. It looks like it's like slow. Yeah, I'll check with you a little bit later. If not, yeah, we'll get your response.
Like we said, this is our first time doing kind of good stuff, but we could also try to paper surveys as well for future.
All right, paper surveys the next time as well. Awesome, great to hear. All right, as we wrap up, we do want to leave some time for public comment. We wanted to make everybody aware of some upcoming meetings. Our next meeting is going to be February 19th, 6:30 p.m. That is a Wednesday at Chicagoland Community Church at 836 West Aldine. Okay, public comment. We have a few public comments to make. So if I call your name, please come up and state your name, and then you have 2 minutes to speak.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, we'll call you, Mark. Yeah, I got you.
If anyone has public comment, you can raise your hand and Anna will bring you up paper.
All right, just quick rules and follow-up. 2 minutes per speaker. We have 20 minutes allotted specifically for public comment. And please, no disruption of the speakers. And we've never had an issue before, so shouldn't be a problem. All right, we have our winter timer. Luckily, doesn't look like that outside. We're gonna start with Linda Wilson.
I can do it right from here.
Yes.
Can
Yes, I
everyone
can
hear?
certainly project to the room.
Yeah, can everybody hear okay?
Can everyone-
Okay.
Yeah, go for it, Linda.
I find these meetings interesting, useful, and frustrating at the same time. 99% of it is rehashing what's been done in previous meetings. What I came for was an update on what the allocation study was doing, where you were at. That was rushed through, and then we get a survey asking us to prioritize the things you just rushed through. I don't have enough background to prioritize them because, as you've said, you're in a preliminary part and it's just starting. So I just wanted to voice my frustration. There's nothing you can do about it. You're dealing with a bureaucracy that's very difficult.
Yeah, thanks, Linda. That's totally hear you. And that's something we're trying to work on: reduce the number of slides and get this in a way that it can be digestible, but also give you enough time. And again, if you change your mind on some of the responses, we're going to be sending this out. You can take this at home. You can take it at your own pace there too. Yes, 1 second.
Murillo may kill me if I ask this question, but how if we were to move to like an hour and 45-minute meeting or a 2-hour meeting, would that raise your hand if that feels like way too long to attend a 2-hour? Okay, it's so much information, it's hard to get it all in, but that was kind of what we were thinking too.
The community feels like. The next speaker, Sarah will.
Hi, I just wanted to give you kudos for moving as quickly as you have. I know it probably feels really slow, but I think it's nothing less than miraculous that the workforce allocation study is actually off the ground and moving forward. So congratulations and keep up the good work. I'm also really dismayed at how slowly the consent decree is being implemented. So, keep up the pressure on that. I was also dismayed about the budget process that happened. From what I've seen about it, there are these ghost cop positions that are in the budget, and yet they're never actually filled because we can't hire that many cops, and the money gets wound up like in a completely different pot of money or paying for something that it was not allocated for. So I'm really hoping that as part of this process, or maybe phase 2, will be like aligning the city budget so that we do have the increased transparency and common sense and alignment between what the budget says it's going to pay for and what it actually is paying for, and then it will be efficient. So thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. And just to comment on that, absolutely agree. And Jenny mentioned this too. The timing is going to be interesting, but we hope that the workforce allocation study is going to be an input into these budget discussions that are extremely critical in how we spend our money as a city. And then the last speaker, Emma Shankman. Actually, we have one more after this. Yes.
Hi, I'm Emma Shankman. I'm here to
talk about concern I have about the consent decree, and that is that pretextual traffic stops are still allowed within the consent decree, and there have been so many instances of pretextual traffic stops ending violently for the most vulnerable members of our community, and I feel like CCPSA needs to reject that pretextual traffic stops are still allowed in the consent decree, and our community would be much safer if this was no longer a policing tradition, so to speak, in Chicago. Thank you.
Thanks, Emma.
Yeah.
And just so you our public students out there, we fully support that and agree with that. Not only are it takes up a tremendous amount of their police officers' time they're spending. We had a meeting about this.
April of 2024.
See, like a database of that. But kind of just detailing how inefficient police stops actually are, and they only seize a gun in 0.5% of the traffic stops that they're doing. There's got to be more efficient, more effective ways for police to do their job. It is certainly important to take guns off the streets, but doing it in a needle in a haystack kind of approach that we are currently doing it in is a tremendous waste of our officers' time, in my opinion. It is not great for our community relationships with police. If we want to work on building real community relationships, we need to make sure that we are working together with police and working against police. So thank you for that and for what you said.
And Mark, sorry, I forgot you. I spaced on your own. Mark Willich.
Yes, I talked last time I was here about 2 months ago, got a little bit emotional. I want to tell you, I'm trying to convince people who are at the meeting running this, that we really do need to ask, what about non-lethal force? Okay.
Yeah, go.
Okay, my name is Mark Willage. I got a little bit emotional about this 2 months ago, but let me say that there has to be a way to address non-lethal force. I've got some information that seems to suggest that our officers have had some taser devices issued to them, and that they have the equipment too. Is it really the best way to have somebody that the officer claims they were able to see through tinted glass for a seatbelt violation? And is lethal force really the way to respond to somebody who has a pot of hot water, or somebody who won't turn around and just continues to walk away? Would non-lethal force be useful for that? I also wanted to say, please consider this now. And also, can we address the council who y'all would interact with, the council of the people who the districts gave to the mayor's office, and then the mayor selected them? Can we address the council? Okay, if you could speak to that, I would really appreciate it. And let me make sure.
Yeah, take your time.
Okay, thank you very much. Oh, gosh. That's really it.
Huh?
That's really it. I gave it to you in a concise presentation. Thank you.
And just for folks that maybe weren't here last time, I did speak to Command Staff at 19, and officers are trained to use non-lethal forces first. And so that is what I was told in terms of their training. Obviously, there's been situations that's been different. And then to your point about having a opportunity for the community to speak directly with commissioners, I do encourage folks to go out to the commission meetings. It is a hope of ours to get commissioners at some of our meetings as well. So when we do host them here, very much encourage folks to come out and give another public comment. Question?
Ivan.
A lot of goes back to this warrior training.
which is a grave concern to teach the police that the public is the enemy, which is essence what's going on. I think that is another thing that's got to be dealt with. And if it is, I think a lot of our other problems will get significantly reduced.
Absolutely. You know,
Yes, it's called warrior training, and it's extremely violent. And it's the kind of thing where police are told that anything goes wrong, your life is in danger, which is one of the reasons that violence happens so quickly, because they're trained.
hey guys, I'm gonna ask you guys to take this off maybe after the meeting. We just got to get to a couple other questions, and we do have to end on time because we're always ending late here. We got a couple more questions. Yeah.
I just wanted to maybe reiterate the point about community involvement and shared experience. From what I'm hearing, there is also impacts that are happening, and maybe also taking in those stories of individuals who have been impacted by community policing, and also somehow rolling it up to communicate to our police leadership about the impact that policing is doing to the community, and like the trauma that it's perpetuating, and maybe creating ripple effects that are increasing the amount of work that the police has to do. So I think that's another piece of the shared space that maybe can be explored.
Absolutely. To that point specifically, the community conversations that I mentioned, that where we host on a Saturday, we encourage community to come together and tell their stories. We did have a session in June specifically related to race and policing, right? Because we think that's extremely important topic that we need to cover. We formally invited police folks to come and attend that, and unfortunately, no one did come to those. So we'll keep trying to that point specifically. Johnny had a couple questions.
Yeah, I would just like to propose that given what I think what you're doing today is terrific, and I think that all these questions need to be asked. They're essential, and you guys are tremendous spokespeople for developing the kind of political power that we need and influence to get these things done. Now, that's what I wanted to speak to quickly. That I feel that you are trying to turn an aircraft carrier. This is a very, very hard thing to do. It's going to mean that the police don't want to be told what to do by anybody, and that's understandable. I don't think IBM or X or any company wants to be told what to do by its people. I think part of your job, since you're so good at this, and I know that that's what people downtown think as well, that maybe you should spend time trying to organize your colleagues to, when this thing finally comes out, it has to go to the public. It has to be available. And that has been the problem in the past. I hope you guys really can pull together your colleagues to do that.
Yeah, thank you. And that's exactly why, Jenny, I'm not sure if you might have missed it, John, but Jenny is introducing a proposal to the commissioners to use the workforce allocation study as the first step to really embed district councils in city government. One of the biggest things, and shout out to Claire and Mike again for speaking on behalf of district councilors. We need to be at the table for these discussions because we are here in the room asking you what you need to happen, and we want to enroll all of our other district councilors, and that's why it's so awesome to see our 18th district councilor neighbors over here, joining us tonight, and we want to return the favor. Absolutely, we want to try to move this all in unison. All right, with 10 minutes to go, we just wanted to get through the next 10 slides, or not 10 slides, few slides. Just kidding, not to scare anybody. Just reminders and calls to action. Sorry.
We were talking about the federal consent, the consent decree hearings that happened in the federal court. Those are the next one is February 11th. It's virtual. The topic is going to be the independent monitor's comprehensive assessment. It's her second one that she put out. It should be interesting information. There's a link to the meeting and that blue thing on that blue piece that will be available on our website.
And because it is January of the new year, just wanted to put out the new calendar for your beat meetings. Take a look here on our website and just make sure that you go out and attend those as well.
And the first 3 months they're on to one of my information is down there. And then once after March, they'll be back in person. We have 2 lead facilitators here. Thank you for coming, Claire and John. We appreciate that.
There's a mistake. Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So that's the only one of it. I have attended the Zoom meeting and I heard them. Thank you. Every other meet is gonna be online though, so. Last thing, as always, we want to hear from you. Engaging with the community is really what we're here for and what makes this position so impactful. We have office hours, just as a reminder to community to reach out to us. We are available anytime. Reach out to us to our 19thdistrict.com, our 19thdistrict@gmail.com website to set up an appointment. But these are times that we try to hold, but also we always able for other meetings.
We'll get our website right one of these days. We want to thank our hosts here at Social Library. This is always a big space. Love coming here. And then, as Jenny mentioned at the beginning, please take some kits for the unhoused neighbors that we have, and the Know Your Rights paperwork, because as we've seen, the current administration is making it very difficult for folks that are undocumented. So please help spread the word for the Know Your Rights. And with that, I'm going to call the meeting at 7:54. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you everyone for coming. The library closes at 8.